Unai Emery's Aston Villa have now won 4 Premier League games on the bounce, including a win at Tottenham and most recently a win against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. In this video, we're going to understand how Emery's tactics are evolving, how Villa kept Manchester City out, created their own chances and scored the winner in the process. And I should say, welcome to the Total Football Analysis YouTube channel. My name's Jack Ward and twice a week we're going to be taking a deep dive into the tactics behind the beautiful game. So let's go. Aston Villa carried out their build-up in a 4-2 shape, and you can see it clear as day on the screen here. This is the back four, and then you've got your double pivot in the centre there as well. The centre-backs and the full-backs were spread to provide that width, whilst the double pivot are tight and close to each other in the defensive third. And when Martinez would move the ball to one side, the double pivot would shift towards that side of the pitch to create supporting angles. And this is an example of exactly that. Pau Torres, the left centre-back, has received the ball. He's gone out to the left back, and Onana has come to make another point of that passing triangle. And as you can see here, we have our triangle combined with the centre-back, with the full-back, and then that other member, the left-sided member of the double pivot. These deep Aston Villa triangles were crucial in breaking down the first line of Manchester City's pretty aggressive high press. And Aston Villa were also comfortable doing the opposite. This time, Pau Torres once again receives the ball, but he passes to Onana this time, who then passes out to the fullback, who then has the flank to advance. So they can go to the fullback into the midfield and play out that way, or they can go into the midfielder, who's dropping into the penalty box, who then goes out to the fullback, who can then advance himself too. So there's a real variety to the way they beat the first line of Manchester City's press. Sometimes Aston Villa would build up slightly further up the pitch, and when they did, they, instead of creating a triangle, added the winger to create a diamond. You've got the centre-back, the left-sided double pivot. In this case, it is Kamara. You've got McGinn, a right winger, something a little bit different. And of course, you've still got your fullback as well. And by creating a diamond in this instance, instead of a triangle, crucially, Villa have added even more passing angles and better opportunities to bypass the Manchester City press, because the more passing options, the easier it is to not be suffocated and get yourself into a bit of a pickle. And they played out brilliantly from this example. And so in this example, everything we've just spoken about comes to life as Aston Villa used their trusty diamond passing combination to eventually reach the final third. It was that effective. You can see our diamond already being created with Pau Torres, with Digne at left back, you've got Buendia, and of course you've got Onana as well. This diamond is being created between those four crucial players. If we move on to our next screenshot here, you can see Onana, the pivot player, has collected the ball. Buendia's come inside to become a passing option, and he does receive the ball. But I want to make sure you notice Digne on this left-hand side, because his almost sacrificial run continuing down that left-hand side. If we move on to our next screenshot, and by the way, Buendia does so well to wriggle his way out of trouble. Digne has continued his run, and by doing that, has caught the full attention of this Manchester City player here, who's been dragged out thinking that Digne was going to receive the ball, but he doesn't. And by him making that run and dragging that Manchester City player with him, suddenly you can see here so much room for Buendia to carry the ball. And who's on the ball? It's a winger, a player that is naturally gifted at carrying with the ball and making something happen. And using this final screenshot, you can see here, Villa are now attacking Manchester City with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players against just a quite disorganised, messy Manchester City back four. It's a numerical advantage, and Aston Villa are attacking with numbers towards Manchester City's box. Now, it is important to mention that bypassing a press on the deck wasn't always possible for Aston Villa, so at times they did have to use their goalkeeper Martinez to play some slightly longer passes, and in this case, he fires a brilliant ball into the path of Digne. So a real good piece of variety, you'd say, is the way they can bypass a press. But secondly, and another reason why I really like this, and it's a simple one, is you're taking 5 Manchester City players out of the game. 5 really effective Manchester City players out of the game. So a really exceptional piece of variety, knowing full well that Man City were expecting to try and stop a build-up strategy that I showed you earlier in this video, but they can do something a little bit different. They're one step ahead. I like it a lot. Now, interestingly, despite being quite intricate in the way they built up in this game, as we saw at the start of this video, the way that Aston Villa looked to enter the final third was done quite vertically. They were pretty direct, actually. They used a mixture of runs from deep and also playing in behind from the shoulder of Manchester City's defenders. This example illustrates exactly that perfectly. Ollie Watkins starts with the ball quite deep in his own half. You maybe expect him as the centre forward to be playing up here, but he's not. He starts with the ball in that deep position here. He's got Morgan Rogers, who he does pass to, and you've got John McGinn, who actually plays the ball in just a moment. But the run of Ollie Watkins is really impressive, and you can see he's going to make this run here because our next screenshot, he's in exactly that position. John McGinn then plays a direct ball over the top, looking to get Ollie Watkins in behind. And the reason for that is, look at all of that space. So much space for Ollie Watkins to exploit. And these kind of moves are possible against teams that press high. And we know how high Manchester City press because we showed you those examples earlier on. Their back line is close to the halfway line, leaving all of that space to run into behind them. This is an example of a run from a higher position. Villa shift play into the middle third before the right back then receives the ball and looks up to play a vertical pass in behind. It's played into Matty Cash, the fullback, and he's looking to play this pass over here and exploit all of that space and get this right winger of Aston Villa on his bike. And let's speak about that winger because he knows he has the full attention of this Manchester City player here. The total attention, especially because Nico Riley has only just seconds ago come on the pitch. And it's the movement of this winger that really stood out to me because what he does is he takes a couple of steps forward, a couple of steps. The winger is so focused on him doing that. And then very, very quickly, he accelerates in behind. And this really clever movement totally fools Nico Riley. And suddenly, as we can see with our next screenshot, it's a great ball from Matty Cash. It's a really good run. As you can see the screenshot here, it's now Aston Villa entering into Manchester City's box. Simple as that. Cutbacks from the wide areas played a pivotal role in Villa beating Manchester City at the weekend. And for the goal that Matty Cash scored in the 20th minute, it was used very effectively. Villa decide to go short from a corner. This is the build-up to that goal. Man City anticipate the cross and leave Matty Cash totally unmarked. You can see him here. He has got a free run into zone 14. And we know one thing about zone 14 is where the majority of goals are created or scored. And he knows this, and he's going to push himself inside to get on the end of this cutback. And it's a brilliant cutback. The pass is made into Matty Cash. He's got so much room. It's a brilliant touch. And then he, on his weak foot, hits it into the back of the net. It looks so simple, but cutbacks, they're a massive part of Unai Emery's tactics, and they paid off big time here. Next, I think it's really important we understand how Aston Villa kept a clean sheet against Manchester City, despite having less of the ball. And the short answer is they put in an extremely commendable defensive display in this one, allowing Manchester City to just 2 shots in the first half and only 4 on target across the entire game. In the first half, Aston Villa's high pressing actions were very frequent, and the clear objective was to squeeze Manchester City into wide areas and force them to play long. And this is an example of Man City being caught in a wide squeeze high up the pitch. And you can see it here. Phil Foden's come deep to collect the ball for Man City, and there are plenty of Aston Villa players around him and those Man City players. However, it didn't really have the effect that Unai Emery wanted, as City were effective in going long. They'd either win that first duel, and Erling Haaland's pretty good at winning those duels, and if not, you've got the second balls that Man City were winning pretty often too. So Emery made the decision to change their approach, and instead they used a mid-block that at times turned into a low block when that was required. And this is an example of that. Villa were close to entering Manchester City's box, but they were dispossessed, and now they need to defend a counter-attack. And within just seconds, this is the situation. And alarm bells for most people would be ringing, but not Aston Villa, because what they're doing here is something very, very clever. They're keeping that back four really, really compact and well organised. And they're also buying time. They're buying time for their 2 midfielders because they are alone, really, the back four in this position. They're quite isolated. They haven't got the support of their 2 double pivot members because they were high up the pitch looking to attack just seconds before. But by staying compact and organised, they can buy the time for those midfielders to come and track back to help out. You can see this next screenshot here. When those midfielders do arrive and Kamara makes that first engagement on Reinders, they don't lunge in or make an unnecessary tackle. They simply cut off the passing options, make a challenge, and force Reinders and force the ball carrier in this example here to carry on running and almost run into that back line. He then takes a shot. He's rushed into making that decision, and it drags wide. Here, Villa are defending inside their defensive third, and I mean, they are very, very compact, aren't they? You can see the back four here. You've also got your two double pivot players almost sat on top of that back four, and Aston Villa's compactness proved to be a really tedious challenge for Pep Guardiola's side, and throughout the game, the hosts made it extremely difficult for Man City to get the time and space and get the ball in the penalty area. And we can show you this example here because I think it's really, really important. This is one of the very few times it did happen for Man City. Bernardo Silva does receive the ball inside the box, but he is totally surrounded. And you can see here, because of the pressure that he's put under, because of how many Villa players are around him, the touch is quite a poor one, and he's forced to make a quick decision. He's forced to do things really, really quickly, which of course he can do, but it's made a lot harder when you know you're surrounded by lots of opposition defenders, and Villa was so quick to do exactly that. Something else that really impressed us here at TFA was how Villa managed to win so many defensive 1v1 duels in the wide areas. Now, this is because of the covering defenders who track the opponents and were willing to make underlaps and overlaps. By implementing something that we call man orientations in these situations, they prevented the opponent from combining in these wide areas. And Pep, well, he had one more trick up his sleeve, the final trick up his sleeve, and his name was Jeremy Doku. And here you can see Jeremy Doku 1v1 against Matty Cash. And we know Doku in these 1v1 scenarios. This is his bread and butter. However, Matty Cash stepped up brilliantly to the task and blocked pretty much every dangerous cross. He does actually block this example here. But for this example, and for the purpose of this example, when I speak about the man orientations and the defenders making sure they're definitely covering every single time, even in the 67th minute here, when they're winning the game 1-0 and have been winning for some time, you can see that ball comes into the box. You've got plenty of players ready to clear the danger. In this case, it's Konsa. Doesn't need to, because like I said, Matty Cash makes a great challenge and it goes out for a corner. But definitely something to worth noting. They were immense defensively as a collective and also 1v1. I should say a huge thank you to the brilliant Vidan who put together this wonderful work on the Total Football Analysis website. I haven't been able to include every piece of detail because he went so in depth. So make sure you check out the full article on the website using the link in the description. And that reminds me, take a look at this. Do you want to take your football analysis to the next level? Well, why don't you check out totalfootballanalysis.com today for some of the most in-depth analysis in the business, written by some of the best footballing experts. You'll get yourself a free 2-week trial straight away. From game analysis to manager and player profiles, you'll have exclusive access to the lot. Start your free trial today and make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel so you never miss another one of our videos.